Hello everyone. Interesting. Hey everyone, I'm sorry I'm late. I'm actually 8 minutes late and I really dislike that, but I couldn't get my Zoom to connect to Facebook. So I'm live from the Facebook group directly. Let me connect to Instagram as well. Here we go. 3, 2, 1. Connecting. Hello. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to another live training. We're live on Facebook and on Instagram, and I'm really sorry I'm a little bit late today. I just explained on Facebook that I couldn't connect through my usual Zoom account, and I had to go live from the Facebook group directly, which is not something I do usually, and I have to get used to it. So it took me a little bit longer to set up. But we are here, and I see that you're all joining. So good to see you all. I'm excited to be here. Really excited to be here. I'm just going to double check. Well, the video looks very strange on Facebook. I'm sorry about that. If it turns out not to work properly, I will take the video from Instagram and upload it there later. But write say hi in the chat. Say hi, tell me where you are from or where you are joining me from. Tell me how you're feeling today. Because today is going to be a very, very, very useful training, I believe, as we're going to speak about grammar. Now, hello, Flau, is that how you pronounce your name, from Brazil? We're going to speak about grammar. And if you have been in our community for a while, you may have seen a previous training I did, which was called Grammar Revision for your yoga classes, or a grammar revision for multilingual yoga teachers. There I explained a few things about grammar already, but I thought that maybe it would be useful for you to get a few really practical things to look at when we are speaking about grammar in yoga, and especially when teaching asana classes. I see that we've got Argentina here, from Spain, from Mexico, from Hungary. And Fernanda, thank you for sharing. Amazing, amazing. On Facebook as well, let me know where everyone is joining us from, because we have a really international community, and it's super exciting to see how many nationalities really are here with us today. So, how is everyone feeling? How's everyone feeling? Are you excited? Because tomorrow we start the English for Yoga Teachers mini course. And we already have, the last time I checked was this morning, so it's a few hours ago, we already have 2,100, so 2,100 people registered. And that means that it's going to be a really, 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 really valuable experience for all of you. Not only to learn English for teaching yoga, but also to connect with a lot of people around the world, and thereby open up opportunities for you to work in other countries. Because you can work together, you can exchange ideas, you can form partnerships and collaborations. So I believe it's going to be a really extremely valuable immersion to learn and develop, but also to expand your network. Yeah, so if you haven't signed up yet, the link is in my bio. Free registration closes today, and that means that you can create an account on the online learning platform for free to get access to all the materials that I'll be sharing during the mini course. So those are the replays of the trainings if you can't make it live, but also some quizzes and some exercises, some things to put your new knowledge into practice. So go and check that out after the training. And now I'm going to dive in to the 5 grammar hacks for multilingual yoga teachers. And with that, I want you to enhance your communication. Your overall communication. Before I start, we need to remember, and you might have heard me speak about this before, and I will always keep speaking about this because this is a reminder for everyone, no matter where in your journey you are. Every teacher is unique, and the way that you express yourself is unique too, right? You know this, but I want you to remind yourself of that time and time again. As a yoga teacher, your authenticity is one of the most important factors for genuine communication. And genuine communication leads to deeper connections with your students. So when you start to teach yoga, you may realize that the way you speak is the gateway to effective classes, but also student engagement. And building loyal students that come back time and time again, students that refer you to their friends and their family, right? So, and also students that want to learn more from you and ask questions. Especially if it's your goal to teach yoga internationally, you do not only want to develop your communication skills, but also optimize your language knowledge and your word choice to use vocabulary and to use phrases and expressions that are accessible to English speakers of all levels. Because right now, it may be that you want to learn English, but the chance is that you also get English learners in your yoga classes. And for them, you also want to make your classes accessible. So, if you are a proficient speaker, this requires you to gain understanding of the way that words are used and perceived based on a student's cultural background, on their first language, and their individual experiences. If you are an English learner yourself, this requires you to learn the vocabulary to express yourself clearly and effectively, but that also matches your style of teaching voice. And that I will speak about in a mini course. But if you want to already have a little bit more knowledge about the way that you speak, you can check out the What's Your Style of Teaching Voice quiz. And that link you can find on the website, in my bio, in the Facebook group, we've posted it before. It's the What's Your Style of Teaching quiz. Teaching voice quiz. So previously, last week or the week before, I spoke about communication habits. This training is really useful for you if you want to speak more mindfully and foster stronger student-teacher relationships. So if you missed that training, go back to the feed or go to the Your Yoga in English podcast and you can listen to it there. All right, the communication habits training. But today specifically, I want to look at how you can optimize your sentence structures, your word choice, and your essential grammar so that you can deliver your cues in a very clear and an effective way. So your students understand you straight away. They don't have to look at you, they don't have to look at other people in the room, or they don't have to feel frustrated or anxious because they didn't understand you. Yeah? So this training is for you if you are an English learner, but also if you are a proficient speaker and teach people that are English learners. All right? So it's for everyone in our community, no matter where you are. Are you ready? Are you ready, everyone? So there's lots of people joining us today. On Facebook, I can't see who is joining us, but let us know in the comments. Write where you are, what your name is, your experience with teaching yoga. I would love to connect with you. And I'm gonna dive in. So, number one grammar point that we need to work on. And this is really one thing that you want to avoid, and that is passive language. Now, you may have heard me speak about this before, but I need to repeat this because it still happens too much among proficient speakers and among English learners. passive language does not belong in a yoga class. And I'm going to explain why. So there are various types of passive language. If you have studied English grammar, you learned about the passive voice. Yeah, the passive voice is a way of structuring your sentences where the subject, the main thing, is being acted upon. Something is done to or for them. Yeah, they are not performing the action. For example, the passive voice in English sounds like, no, let me put it the other way around. So you can say, I taught the yoga class. This is the active voice. In the passive, you would say, the yoga class was taught by me. Do you see what happened here? I taught the yoga class, or the yoga class was taught by me. The passive voice focuses the shift from the doer of the action to the receiver of the action. This is helpful if you write news articles or academic lectures, or if you speak in a formal setting. But when teaching yoga, it doesn't really allow for accessible communication. Makes it complicated. Yeah, so we want to really make our voice, the way in which we speak, the time in which we speak, active. I taught the yoga class and not the yoga class was taught by me. Now, another type of passive language is using excessive verb plus ing, verb plus ing. Yeah, you must have learned about this before. For example, you're going to bend your knee. This sounds like a future action, but it doesn't exactly explain when it's happening. As a teacher, you know that this action happens now. But to your student, it isn't very clear, right? There's not really a time frame mentioned here. So just as you want your students to become present in your classes, everyone wants to be present, be mindful, stay connected, feel grounded. You want your cues and your language be present too. So take out the verb to be plus ing and make your cues actionable. So instead of saying, you're going to bend your knee, you say, bend your knee. And that may sound really direct, right? It may sound like an order, you have to do this, but that really is not the case. Your students come to class because they want to be guided by you. They want clear language to understand straight away what they need to do. They rely on your cues. So it's much more beneficial for them for you to say, bend your knee, lift your arm, look forward, then you're going to bend your knee. Or after doing this and this and this, we're going to come into a child's pose. We don't really need this. Make it actionable. It's happening now anyway. So make it actionable, present. Yeah. A last example, I'm going to wave at everyone that's joining us. A last example of passive cueing is describing what a body part or what an action looks like. And those descriptions, they sound like observations. For example, the hands are on the mat. See how this cue sounds like an observation? The hands are on the mat. My glass of water is on the table. I don't know. But you get the point. You get the point. Unfortunately, there are too many yoga teachers, native speakers, proficient speakers, non-native English learners that use passive language. So instead of saying what something looks like, making it sound like an observation, you want your students to be engaged and to follow your alignment cues, give them an action rather than a description. So, the hands are on the mat, you replace for place your hands on the mat. or put your hands on the mat, or place your hands under your shoulders, wherever they are. Yeah, don't describe it any longer, but give them an action to do, a movement. So, especially when teaching people that also don't speak English as a first language, passive cues make it very challenging to understand what to do. In the Teach Yoga and English Essentials course, I've shared cueing phrases and sentence structures that you can use to avoid and unlearn passive language, so that you can keep your students engaged throughout that yoga class, but also meditation or mindfulness practices. On the second day of the English for Yoga Teachers mini course, I will speak about this a little bit more too. Yeah, because we're going to practice with cues in your teaching practices. Yeah, it's very exciting. I'm really excited about this. But in the Teach Yoga and English Journey, which is our 6-month program, we've got an entire module dedicated to optimizing your cues, and also look at various cueing styles, so that you can really cue in a way that feels true and feels authentic to you, but still be very clear, precise, accurate, to the point, easy to understand. So if you're interested in that and you want to know what the course is all about, go to the link in my bio and you can find more about it there. That's the Teach Yoga and English Journey. It's a 6-month program. So that's number 1. We've only spoken about one thing so far. So passive language. Avoid passive language. Make your cues actionable. Number 2, a grammar hack. Number 2 is to shorten your sentences. In other words, avoid using too many clauses. Yeah, clauses, maybe you've heard that word before. You've heard it in your English grammar classes before. What is a clause? So when your cues and when your instructions are very long and they include too many words or many difficult words, you risk disruption of the flow of your classes, because your students can get really confused or distracted, they lose engagement, they are disrupted from their own flow and their practice. Sometimes people get anxious because they can't keep up with everything that you say. So, sentences that are very long, they likely contain too many clauses. Now, let's revise the clauses, because what is it again? In English grammar, clauses are groups of words that contain a subject and a verb. There are clauses, so there's part of a sentence, clauses that keep the same meaning when they are used on their own. And those are called independent clauses. What you say means the same without any other information. And there are clauses that provide you with more information about a purpose or a thing, maybe it's a description, and it cannot be used alone. All right? So to give you an example, is if you feel discomfort in your lower back, clause number 1, find length in your spine. So if you feel discomfort in your lower back, find length in your spine. The first part, if you feel discomfort in your lower back, is a dependent clause, because it doesn't mean anything without another action, right? If you feel discomfort in your lower back, what? Doesn't mean anything without the other action. The second part, find length in your spine, is an independent clause. If you use that cue on its own, the meaning stays the same, because you can observe a student and you can see that they are uncomfortable or that their spine could be better aligned, right? It's not necessary to say if you feel discomfort, because what you want them to do is lengthen the spine. So you can get rid of that first sentence. I'm not saying that you can't use the dependent clauses. because they can be really beautiful, and they can also teach your students a lot of things. And they can convey ideas or information, they can be educational, so they can be really useful. But too many clauses can quickly become run-on sentences. And I'm going to give you an example of that. Run-on sentences are disrupting and they're unnecessary, because there are multiple clauses, there are lots of ideas, and there's often not proper punctuation or conjugation. So let me give you an example of what that could sound like. Listen up, because it's a long one. I've written this down to give you an example. It's an example of one of our graduates, and right now she would never do this again, but when she started the Teach Yoga and English journey, this is how she wrote her cues. When you're ready to move out your downward facing dog, lift your right leg up to the sky and then bend your knee. Now bring your knee forward to your chest, and then step your foot between your hands. And when it feels good, you can lift your upper body and your arms up to the sky or to the ceiling so that you can stand up high in high lunge. Right, where did you lose me? Because I lost myself in this. I lost my own speech in this. This cue is extremely long and it can be really confusing. There are too many sentences that use and then. So you really want to start looking at what you can take out, what is information that is not necessary, and how you can make your cues short, direct, and to the point, concise. So take out that whole first part when you're ready to move out your downward facing dog. You want your students to move from down dog to high lunge anyway. That's going to happen. So they can decide for themselves when they are ready. Yeah, so that whole first part is not necessary. Also take out all the and then. It's okay to give multiple actions, but still keep your cues and your communication direct, to the point, concise. And also take out the double use of lift to the sky and to the ceiling. Because lift by itself, the verb lift, is already the action of raising something, moving up. Yeah? So what is left of that whole cue that I just mentioned is lift your right leg, bend your knee, bring your knee to your chest, step your foot between your hands, lift your upper body, raise your arms, high lunge. Isn't that much easier to digest? We're giving very clear cues, the sentences are short, there's lots of actions, it's active, happens now, and everyone knows what to do. Very accessible. So, shorten your sentences. So, what you can look at here as well is cueing formulas. And cueing formulas I teach in all of our courses. I believe that in the essentials, in the Find Your Voice, in the Yoga Vocabulary Builder, in the Teach Yoga and English Journey, all of the courses include a very, very important cueing formula that you can use in every yogic setting. And these cueing formulas, they help you to optimize the order in which you put your words to ensure clear and effective instructions. So if you want to learn more about this, come and join us for the mini course. I will speak about it there too. Definitely check out all our other programs, because on the Teach Yoga and English Journey, we have an entire module dedicated to optimizing your cues. It's module 4, and we're going to dive really deep, spend a whole month on just optimizing your cues and ensure student progress. So check it out there. So that's number 2. Hack number 3 is a combination of grammar mistakes. And I'm going to speak about pluralization, incorrect use of prepositions, pronoun errors, and word choice. So bear with me. There's a few things that I want to share with you here. So English learners, they often commit grammar errors when teaching yoga and English. And that's normal. There's nothing wrong with that. We don't have to speak the Queen's English to lead effective yoga classes. But you can do something about this to make your communication clearer and more direct, more specific, easier to understand for others. Yeah? A very prevalent mistake are the subject-verb agreement and pluralization. In that case, you may fail to match a singular subject with singular verbs and plural subjects with plural verbs. So when speaking about pluralization, you may forget to add the suffix. A suffix are usually 2 or 3 letters, or 4 sometimes, that we add at the end of a word. That can be ed when we speak about regular verbs in the past. Work, worked. Ed is a suffix. But for plurals, it's the letter s, one hand, 2 hands, yeah, or es, yeah, s or es. So, for example, lift both of your arms next to your head, where instead you want to say lift both of your arms next to your head. So that's a really common thing that I often hear, and I know that most people are aware of this, but it can become a habit to forget in your speech and in your writing. So pay attention to this, pluralization. Look at singular verbs and singular verbs with singular objects and plural subjects with plural verbs. Now, incorrect use of prepositions. In the chat, everybody, let me know. Is this something that you find challenging? I want to hear. Prepositions. Because prepositions for me, and I would say for every English learner I've ever worked with, is one of the most challenging things. Because prepositions in every language are used differently, or they don't even exist. So prepositions are the words, for example, at, in, on, and they're often confused. For example, stand at the top of your mat instead of stand on the top of your mat. Why? What is that difference? At usually describes a location that is close to something. In this case, next to the mat. So if you want your students to start off in mountain pose and you say stand at the top of your mat, it might be that they go stand next to the mat. That was not really your intention, right? So instead you want to say on, because on prepositions are so difficult. I understand. It's not impossible, and I'm here to help you with that. But I understand that in the beginning they're a challenge. So, going back, you want to say on the mat because on means on top of something. Yeah? So, if you want your students to start off in mountain pose and stand on the front of their mat, tell them stand on the top of your mat. Now, pronoun errors. Pronoun errors are especially challenging for speakers that are used to languages where they use feminine and masculine nouns, so gendered nouns. Think of languages like Spanish, Italian, Portuguese. I believe that even German does this. English doesn't have that. English doesn't have gendered nouns. We use the neutral pronoun the, T-H-E. So to give you an example, I do speak Spanish as well, so I'm going to give you examples of languages that I know, but try and translate this to your own. In Spanish, the yoga mat has various translations. So depending on the region or the country, the dialect or the accent, it can be la estería, la colchoneta, la alfombra, or el tapete. Yeah, so different translations. But you hear they are la esterilla, la colchoneta, la alfombra, el tapete. All these words use el or la. So when a Spanish speaker translates the word mat to English, they might mistakenly also use a gendered pronoun. So they might say, place your hands on her mat. Place your hands on her mat. Where you want to say, place your hands on the mat. Yeah, in English, no gendered nouns. So pay attention to these things. Lastly, in this section of tiny grammar errors, is incorrect word choice. An incorrect word choice can be because we often have a root word, and it can be the verb, for example, to breathe. But then we have a noun, which is the breath, right? So, and these can be used, it often happens that they are used instead of each other. So instead is take a deep breath in. I hear people say take a deep breath in, but breathe is the verb. So take a breath doesn't really exist. Take a breath in. Word choice also includes non-inclusive language, and this happens because of direct translations. We have a word that we want to use in English. We look in a dictionary or we do a Google search, find a word that sounds right, but they're not inclusive or they're not appropriate for a yoga class. One example that I think will give you a great idea of what I mean is using, for example, you want to say that someone is very, in Spanish, delgada. Very, and in other language you will hear what this means. But say that someone is very tiny. That's not a nice word either. And we say that they are skinny. Skinny is not an inclusive word in English. It has a lot of negative connotations or negative associations. So the way that I perceive this as an individual may be not very nice. A word that's more inclusive that you can use instead of skinny is slim. Someone can be slim. Same thing, but slim sounds nicer. Doesn't have a negative aspect to it. So incorrect word choice often happens because of direct translations. If you use Google Translate or if you use a dictionary on the internet, make sure that you read what this means in context, that you search for this word in different contexts and understand if this is appropriate for your yoga classes. Because words have connotations, and that is the way that as a culture we perceive the word. They have associations, the way that as individuals we perceive this word, but also personal preferences. And all of that can hugely impact your clarity and your inclusivity. It becomes more, very, very important, more critical when you're considering inclusive language to create a safe space. Imagine that you're working with trauma survivors, your language is even more important. And I believe that in every yoga class there are trauma survivors, so we need to all know about this. So pay attention to your word choice and ask yourself, is this word truly what it means? So instead of using breathe, maybe we need to use breath. Or is this word truly inclusive? So pay attention to your grammar, pay attention to your word choice, because the very first step to bettering your communication is awareness. You need to be aware of what you're doing right now. Watch recordings of your classes or revise your class scripts and see if you're committing any of these mistakes. And then, if you want to dive deeper, enhance your language skills, learn with a group of other multilingual yoga teachers, receive my feedback and my guidance, Check out the Teach Yoga and English journey, because there it's my aim for you to guide your students in a very clear, a safe and a responsible and effective manner through language and communication, but also your teaching skills. So go and check that out, everyone. Number 4, I was gonna put number 3. My numbers are not as good as my language. My maths are horrible. So I'm really focused on the language. But number 4, number 4 is complete your sentences. Complete your sentences. So grammar hack number 4. Let me drink some water. Everybody, if you have questions, write them in the chat, right? Don't forget that. I'm here to help you with everything that I can, that I have knowledge of. And otherwise, I will help you with suggestions of things that I tried or know that people do and can help you with. Write your questions in the chat. So, complete your sentences. For language learners, it's very common to forget words. And this is sometimes referred to as broken English. And I remembered when I started learning Spanish and I finally found the courage to speak, first of all, and I finally found the words to get my ideas across, people still laughed at me. People still laughed at me. And you know what they said? You speak like an Indian. And I was really offended by this. Yeah, you speak like an Indian, because my sentences were incomplete and they lacked clarity. And obviously this, for me personally, this massively impacted my confidence and my self-esteem. And it was really hard to break free from, because they would say, you speak like an Indian, but they could not help me explaining why or how to complete my sentences correctly. So that's why in our group programs, we help you practice speaking, teaching, all of that in English, so that you understand how to put your sentences together and feel confident about what you say and add clarity to your cueing language. So incomplete sentences, that could be because you're forgetting a key word. The foot on the back of your mat, for example, or your arms to the front. And in these cases, your sentences miss a verb that indicates what to do, or sometimes even how to do it. Now, if you say the foot on the back of your mat, what is missing here? You already know it's a verb. Can you give me the verbs you can place here? Verbs that you can place here to make this sentence complete. The foot on the back of your mat. How can you complete this sentence? Don't be shy. How can you complete this sentence? I'm just going to give you a second here. I will give you the answer. But if you're unsure, if your sentences are complete, ask for feedback on your cues. Ask for feedback. You can ask students, but I highly suggest that you ask another yoga teacher, because another yoga teacher has much more knowledge of effective cues and how to deliver them. And they can help you to complete your sentence in a really clear way. Amazing. We've got Ingrid Put the Foot and Critical and Lime. What are your names, everyone? Because you all have such great Instagram handles, but I don't know your names. So we've got put the foot, put, place, step the foot on the back of your mat, place, position the foot, place as well. Amazing. So here we've got 3 synonyms already. Put, place and position. Remember these for yourself. Play with your verbs and your synonyms. Well done. Really good. So these are really, really great examples. Hi, Andrea. Nice to meet you. So these are really great examples of how to complete your sentences and also find synonyms. That's for another day. Incomplete sentences can also be because of missing articles. Articles are the words a, the letter A, an, an, and the. So we use articles to talk about something specific or already known to the listener. For example, place your hands on the yoga mat. Yeah. We also use articles to speak about something that's non-specific or something for the first time. And you maybe go to a yoga shop and you want to buy a yoga mat. And you ask the salesperson, hey, do you sell a yoga mat here? So some Asian languages like Japanese, Mandarin, Korean, Vietnamese, but also Russian or Arabic, they do not have articles or they use them in different ways. So speakers of these languages may not know exactly when or how to use them, and they're often misused or completely forgotten. For example, I hear people say, bring block to class. Yeah. Instead, you want to say bring a block to class or bring the block to your class. But bring a block to class, incomplete sentence. So again, revise your recordings. Yeah, revise recordings of your classes, your class scripts to detect if you're committing any of these mistakes because they directly impact the quality of your cues. So make some time to learn to complete your sentences and be mindful of all the grammar rules that I already explained. Because that way you will learn to speak with confidence and with clarity, ensuring that your cues are easily understood by everyone that comes to your class. Native speakers, proficient speakers, and English learners. Then grammar hack 5. It's a longer training today because I'm really excited about this topic. Hack number 5 is for proficient and native speakers. Important, language awareness. So to optimize your cueing and your language, your grammar, and your overall communication as a proficient or native speaker, just being very fluent in a language is not enough, not for your students. So we want to pay attention to being consistent. What I refer with that, and actually if you're an English learner, this is useful for you too. What I mean with consistent language is that the way you express yourself and call things like asana names or objects around the room, we want to use consistent words and vocabulary for that, to not be confusing. It's really, really great to offer variety and alternatives and suggestions because it can help you to teach your English learning yoga students more vocabulary too. But if you're unsure that they know a synonym of an alternative phrase for the same thing, it's necessary that you pre-teach new vocabulary. And that can be the body parts, it can be synonyms of verbs, it can be different ways of explaining direction and movement, right? So for example, a strap, I'm going to show you. I don't have one here right now. I used it this morning. A strap is this really long, flexible material that we sometimes use in, for example, a forward fold. Yeah, seated forward fold. Another word is belt. Depending on where you are, depending on the English that you speak, or your preference, you may use belt or strap. It might be that your students are not aware of this difference. So if you always use belt and then suddenly you use strap, this can be confusing. So stay consistent in the language that you use. And if you are unsure that your students know another word that you want to use, pre-teach it before your class. Alrighty? The other bonus tip for proficient speakers is to avoid unnecessary complex language. So if you are aware of the styles of teaching voices, you may know that technical, anatomical, or advanced physiological language aren't very accessible in classes where you receive English learners as well. So pay attention to the complexity or the advanced level of your language use. Using overly complex or technical language can make it really, really challenging for your English learning yoga students to understand or follow your cues. So unless, I'm going to give you an example, unless it's crucial to your class and unless this is really authentic to your teaching style, instead of using rotator cuffs, you can just make it simple by keep using shoulders instead. If you really want to use rotator cuffs, again, pre-teach this type of vocabulary before the class so that during the flow, during practice, students are not disrupted because you suddenly use a lot of terms and vocabulary they've never heard of before, right? So pay attention to avoiding unnecessary complex language. To summarize, because we've spoken a lot about a lot of different things in this training, we've been here for an hour, and really my aim is for you to become aware of your grammar, your word choice, and the way that your language is perceived by your students. So if you join us a little bit later, go watch it again from the beginning, because I spoke about how to avoid passive language and that we no longer want to use verb plus ing, or that we no longer want to describe an action or what a body part looks like, but we want to give the action and tell them what to do, how to do it now. Yeah, so have a look at that, or go back, watch it from the beginning. Hack number 2 was to shorten your sentences. So instead of saying, what was my example again? Instead of saying, when you're ready to move out your downward facing dog, lift your right leg up to the sky and bend your knee, and then bring your knee forward, and then bring your and you ramble on and on and on and on. Make your language direct, concise, to the point. Lift your right leg, bend your knee, bring your knee to your chest, step your foot between your hands. Whatever you want to add, high lunge. Yeah, so go on. If you've missed that, I explain how to do that in the beginning of the training or middle somewhere. Consider your grammar and your word choice, subject-verb agreements and pluralization, incorrect use of prepositions, pronoun errors, and inclusive or incorrect word choice, non-inclusive or incorrect word choice. Then I spoke about how to complete your sentences, to not forget words, like key words, like the verbs or a body part, but also not forget articles. And 2 bonus tips for proficient and native speakers to use consistent language and to avoid unnecessary complex language. So I spoke about a lot of different things, and I believe that it will be really beneficial to watch this again a few times and then record your classes or listen to a recording of your classes. Find out for yourself if you are committing these mistakes, because with this training, you've received the tools now to optimize this, to improve this, right? Now, on the Teach Yoga and English journey, I go into much more depth of these things, because there we have 6 months together where I'm going to help you to build total confidence teaching yoga and English, not just your language and communication, but also your teaching techniques. And with all of that, help you also build your international career. So it's a really, truly transformative journey to find your voice, to express yourself clearly, to improve your teaching and your sequencing techniques, to make your classes accessible to people from all over the world, and to build the foundation of your career. Because the reason why you want to do all of these things is that you can experience freedom, you can travel, teach while you're traveling, or you can start an online membership, or you can form partnerships and collaborations and host retreats in your favorite countries, or countries you haven't been before yet. But really, what we need to do to get there, to make that a reality, is a little bit of work, is a little bit of professional development, and investment in your professional development to pursue your ideal career. So go check out the Teach Yoga and English journey. Enrollment is already open, and if you enroll before the 17th of September, you get a discount of $350. After that date, after the 17th of September, there will be no more other discounts, because I'm really not a fan of, here is this discount and you have to use it within this time frame, and then there's another discount within this time frame. There's one discount, $350 until the 17th of September. So go and check that out. And of course, join us tomorrow, because tomorrow we start the English for Yoga Teachers mini course. And this course is the stepping stone to gaining confidence. To gaining confidence in your language and in your teaching personality, and start welcoming opportunities to teach worldwide, online or abroad. So throughout the 3-day immersion, you will not only enhance your English language skills, but also embrace your accent, feel confident about your accent, and plan your future career steps. So day 1, we're going to practice vocabulary and context. Day 2 is all about your accent and finding your voice. Practice teaching yoga as well. And on day 3, I'm going to give you a plan. I'm going to help you create a realistic plan that feels good, that feels possible for you to build your career, to really have clarity. And maybe it's something that you can already start doing this year, or that you can take into the next year with you. So go check that out. If you haven't signed up yet, this is the last day that you can register for free. Link is in my bio. We start tomorrow, and I'm super duper excited because we've already had 2,100 people signed up, and it promises to be a really valuable event for everyone that wants to build an international career, but knows that they first need to work on their confidence as a teacher and their language and communication to teach their students in the best way possible. And I really can't wait to start it with you. So come and join us tomorrow. Questions, if you have questions, anyone, always feel free to send me an email at annie@engaunite.com. Send me a message here on Instagram in the DMs or Facebook in the DMs. And yeah, I'll be back in the next few weeks here on Instagram as well with more trainings. I'm going to speak about sequencing. I'm going to speak about how to offer hands-on adjustments, and well, much more coming. But first, tomorrow, this weekend, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, is the stepping stone to your international career. So come and join us for the mini course. And I really hope to also welcome you on the journey, which is starting on the 1st of October. And remember, $350 discount if you enroll before the 17th of September. Early enrollment. I will see you all later. I'm sending you lots of love. Thank you so much for joining me today, for staying until the end. Be like, yes, I will save this live for you. And it will stay here on the Instagram feed. It will stay here on the Facebook feed as well. And it will be available in a couple of weeks on the podcast, which is also very cool for you if you want to dive deeper